John, I need directions to get around this place right now. St. Thomas Sports Bar, it's beautiful, it's brand new for your space, and the COVID protocols are done. How much more comfortable is it safe to say do you feel going into this draft than maybe the last couple of years?
Certainly a return to normalcy, walking around maskless. You know, we're not doing this over a Zoom camera. And yeah, the facilities, they turned out great. Still working on a few things, but you know, I can't thank Amy enough and her family for what they've done. You know, we had really grown as an organization staff-wise, and kind of we're busting at the seams a little bit. So to have some more room and really take what we had and really expand it, it's been awesome.
Last we really saw you was at the NFL Combine, and you got emotional over the way last season ended. Is it fair to say that was the toughest loss you've ever had to get over?
Yeah, well, in this role, yes, I think so. You know, certainly when I was in New England, you know, a couple of those Super Bowl losses, those were tough. I would say, a much less significant role on those football teams. But, you know, probably here, yeah. I mean, I thought that we had a good team, and we were the #1 seed in the AFC, and had a bunch of good players and a bunch of good people, you know. And I know there was a lot of hard work and effort that went into that game, and you know, ball didn't bounce our way in the end.
Ryan Tannehill threw 3 interceptions in that game. Did his performance in that game change how you view him or your quarterback situation heading into this draft or beyond?
No, we got the utmost confidence in Ryan, and I know he prepares like a pro. He's won a lot of football games for us. We know what he's capable of, and you know, just excited. I know he's itching to get back to and out on the field this fall, and you know, lead this team.
Both you and Mike Vrabel said you've got to make the team around Ryan better. With the moves you've made this offseason to bring in a guy like Robert Woods and Austin Hooper, do you think you've gone a long ways to doing that?
Well, I think we're certainly headed in the right direction. Yeah, I think, though, you know, both those guys, you know, we'll be counting on those guys to help us. Both have been proven players in this league, really productive players in this league. They're pros. They prepare like pros, and we're just excited that we had the chance to add those guys and, you know, get them working with, you know, with the current guys that we have on the roster, and, you know, see how this thing stacks up as we inch closer to August.
Tannehill's favorite target is A.J. Brown. He's not here right now, and it seems like this storyline's kind of taken on a life of its own, from the trade rumors to all that sort of stuff. How confident are you, as you sit here right now, that you're going to be able to sign A.J. and have him in two-tone blue for a long time to come?
Yeah, we're certainly working on that. You know, I've made several comments about that and how we feel about him, and we want him here. And, you know, it's just a matter of working through some things and, you know, making all that happen.
In terms of the offensive line, it's been a strength ever since you've been here. Some changes this offseason. There's going to be some new pieces up front. Do you think it will still be a strength as you try to replace Roger Saffold, and how do you feel about the moves you made up front?
Yeah, I think that it has been. I think that's, you know, philosophically, the lines of scrimmage, that's kind of where you start with building a football team, is being strong up front. Excited about, you know, the guys that we're able to get back. Ben Jones has been a key piece for us, you know, here for a while, and you know, we've got some guys back. We've added, you know, a couple guys up front there. See how the draft unfolds, and I know we put a lot of emphasis on that position group. We put a lot on their plate, and we coach them hard. We demand a lot of them, and they demand a lot of themselves, and I feel like they'll be ready for the task.
When you look at the draft class on the offensive line, do you like what you see from the tackle group, and what about interior? How deep is that position?
Yeah, as we've gone through it, Steve, I think that there's players that, you know, play, I'd say, mostly on the, you know, the tackle positions. A couple of those guys have played a couple different spots, but both interior and on the, you know, on the edges, there's good football players, and really at different levels of the draft. We feel like there's guys, you know, that you can get maybe, you know, that don't go in the first round that, you know, could come in here and be good football players for us, you know, much like we did with Nate Davis when we took him in the 3rd round. Not to try to compare this guy to Nate Davis, But we feel like there's guys that, potentially could be in those second wave of offensive linemen that could help our football team.
You got any inside info on Zion from Mike Vrabel?
Certainly knows him. He played right beside Tyler up there, and I know Mike went to a lot of those games up there, and knows him pretty intimately. We've spent time with Zion at the combine and at his pro day, and he's an outstanding person and a really good prospect.
Speaking of a BC guy, Harold Landry, I know, was one of your priorities for this offseason, to bring him back and now essentially have 10 starters back on your defense. Is this maybe the most comfortable you've been sitting in that chair looking at your defense in an offseason?
Yeah, I think a year ago we turned the defense over quite a bit. I felt like that was something that we needed to do, and we reaped the benefits of that last year. I thought we played much better defensive football, and it was good to get all those guys, have all those guys come back with Harold being a pretty key piece in that, and it's another year in the system, another year with the terminology. Again, if you can get some commonality year in and year out between coaching and players, hopefully you can see some carryover.
So when you look at the defense in the draft, is this a case where you're just looking at the board and saying, that he's the best available and he can help us, basically?
Yeah, I think that's something that, we've talked about, is like when you're looking at those defensive guys, like, who's the best guy staring us in the face, because you're going to need that player at some point, right? We saw that last year with the number of players that we used through the course of the season, 91 I think it was. You're going to need them at some point, because bumps and bruises are going to happen. Hope you don't have any long-term injuries. Knock on wood we don't. But that guy that may not be the starter, if he can come in and play at a at a level that's competitive and can help you win football games, the depth of your football team, that's a really good player that's staring at you, I think you take the guy.
No matter what you do next weekend, you're essentially going to get a first-round draft pick on your defense, because Caleb Farley missed all of last season. How has his rehab gone, and how strong is your belief that he can step in and be the impact player you thought?
Yeah, strong, really strong. I think he's off to a good start here with the first week with the players being back. He's been here rehabbing throughout the course of the entire spring, and I know he's excited to get back out there. He feels like he's got a lot to prove. He knows what he's capable of. We've had good discussions with him, and I'm excited to, when he's cleared and medically ready to get back out there from our trainers and doctors, certainly excited to see him out there.
John, it's really hard to criticize a GM who's 6 for 6 in winning seasons, but GMs are often judged by draft classes, and 14 picks in the last 2 years is really only about 4 that have had key roles for you. The first-round picks, Isaiah's gone, Caleb obviously didn't play last year. Do you feel some pressure on next weekend in this draft to get it right this year? I always put pressure on myself. Like, nobody's harder on what I do than myself, and I'm extremely critical of when things don't work out. You certainly don't sign someone or draft someone thinking it's not going to work out. You've been through the evaluation process. There are a myriad of reasons of why things don't go the way they should. But I'm extremely confident that we're going to be able to add players that are going to play stylistically, the way that we want to play, and hopefully make an impact for this football team. You talked about the window being open last year and how close you thought you were. Given what you've been able to do this offseason, what's still in front of you, how confident are you that window to win a Super Bowl is still open for this team?
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think, we've got a lot of guys coming back from last year's team. We've got a lot of guys that have been in this system now for a while. And we've got a lot of dang good football players, and that believe stylistically they want to play, and they will play the way that we believe. And I'm excited to add a few more guys in the draft this next week, and we'll see how the chips stack up next fall.
Last question. When you go inside that new war room next week, what's the best part as a GM? Is it the discussion? Is it the call to the player? Is it hearing the pick? Is it having the whole thing over and going and hugging your family afterward? What is the best part as a GM?
It's the phone call to the player. They've worked so hard to get to this point in their football career. A lot of them have overcome unthinkable obstacles, some of them, to be where they're at, and their dreams of playing a sport that they love so much professionally, to finally have that come true, and for me to be the one to tell them. It's just a really cool moment with that initial conversation, and I'm looking forward to making those calls.
It's going to be a lot of fun. John, we appreciate the time. Good to see you in person.
Absolutely.
Good luck.